My partner and I recently bought our first home. The day of closing, the selling realtor tells us that the seller didn't give her the keys to the house and claims had never had a garage door opener. When asked about when we could obtain the keys, the selling realtor says that the seller works an hour away and works long hours, so we couldn't get the keys until 9 or 10 o'clock at night. So instead, the realtor arranged and paid for new locks on the front door and even gave us money to buy the garage door openers. So we close on the house and everything else is smooth sailing. Until when I go to set up and turn on the electricity. The company says that they can't turn on our power until the next day, even though I called in the morning. The house needed a good cleaning as the seller didn't bother to clean when they moved out. And let me tell you first about the house layout. When you walk through the front door, it opens to the living area with the kitchen to the left. Part of the kitchen is hidden from the front door due to stairs leading to the basement, so you can't see the oven or the fridge. The neighborhood is one of the safest in my area. I had to use the front door to move things in since the locks were installed before I came by, so I didn't bother locking the door. So moving on with the story. Since I didn't have electricity, I decided to start by cleaning the fridge. I turned on a true crime horror podcast and get to work. The doors to the fridge are wide open and I'm just doing my thing when a shadow appears behind me. I knew this wasn't my partner because he was teaching. So I turned around to see a man in a black hoodie and black shorts telling me he's there to drop off a garage door opener. He drops the opener on the island and doesn't say another word. I probably spooked him just as much as he spooked me because he didn't say another word and ran out the door. It took me a while to compose myself again and call my partner, hoping that he was on break to tell him what just happened. I also texted our realtor about this. It was a very weird interaction. I thought about if I just didn't hear a knock because I was in the zone, but I know he didn't knock. I know this because less than an hour later, another man knocks on the door and explains he is here to drop off a key to the front door. And if he tried the doorbell, I didn't hear it because there wasn't electricity. We are still doing work on the house before we officially move in. I am now ultra spooked being in the house alone, and I refuse to listen to a true crime horror podcast while the house is empty. First of all, I'm a young woman barely big enough to walk my dog. If this had escalated at all, I have no idea what would have happened. I'm not usually easily frightened, but this scared the shit out of me. It actually happened last night and I have no idea if it'll happen again. It's just me and my giant dog in a nice private apartment attached to some townhouses, separated from the other buildings by a strip of woods. It's kind of like a tiny house that just shares a wall of the apartment building. As nice as it is, it's in a not so nice part of town, but I have a backyard in my own space, and working electricity for cheap, so I love the place. It's my first time living out on my own, and I'm not gonna lie, I've been a little freaked out about living alone, even with a big dog for security, and last night definitely didn't help. So I was laying in bed just browsing Reddit and trying to fall asleep, when I heard tapping on the window. My bedroom has 2 windows facing the backyard on ground level, about 3 meters from the tree line, with nothing but open grass outside. At first, since I'm not used to sleeping on the first floor, I thought it was a tree or something blowing against the outside of the house. When I remembered I'm on the first and only floor with no trees close enough to reach the house, I started feeling a little bit nervous. I was some weird mix of both scared and annoyed that the tapping was keeping me awake. The noise had my dog's attention, but he wasn't barking yet, which to me meant that it probably wasn't a person, so I wasn't as afraid as I could have been. But gradually, annoyance replaced the fear, and I decided I should tell whatever it was to knock it off. It had been nearly 30 minutes of this weird uneven tapping, and it was almost midnight, and I also had an early start in the morning. Best case scenario, there was no one outside and I was talking to myself, with no one there to hear me. Worst case, there was someone outside. My nonchalance would catch them off guard and they would leave, right? Yeah, no. I figured if there was someone there, they'd expected fear, not conversation. I worked up some courage and said, F off into the dark, and the tapping continued. A couple seconds later, I repeated it a little bit louder. Hey, F off, I'm trying to sleep. Then the tapping stopped. After a second, I heard a male voice call back. Sorry. The tapping didn't start again, but holy shit, I didn't expect someone to actually be there. I got out of bed and I ran to the window with my phone in hand, ready to call the police, but when I peeked through the blinds, I saw the guy with his hands up and the weirdest smile on his face. I quickly turned my phone flashlight on and put it in front of my face so he couldn't see what I looked like. A few seconds later, I turned the light off and he hadn't moved an inch, not even his face. But he still had that weird and creepy smile and stared at the window with his hands up, almost like he was posing for a photo. In hindsight, I don't know why I didn't take one. Finally, he turned around and started walking back through the woods and into what I assume was his own apartment right across from mine. What a way to meet the neighbors. I have no idea what possessed him to tap on my window for half an hour or what he had in mind, but he hasn't come back yet. And I'm not sure what I'll do if he does. I didn't fall asleep last night and I'm nervous to go to bed tonight, but I have class in the morning. Besides, I have a big scary dog exactly for this reason. I should be fine, but still. What kind of person just knocks on some stranger's window at midnight? When I woke up this morning, I saw the window pane on the outside had a few deep scrapes. I'm not sure if the guy made them, but I'm reporting it to management and maybe the police tomorrow. This story actually happened to me when I was still living with my parents about 3 years ago. We moved to this new house at the end of 2019, right before the lockdown, and multiple things happened. One night around 7 p.m., my mom and I were going home from school. It's about a 20-minute ride. My mom has this weird habit of always checking who was behind us. At that night, she noticed that this car had been there for a few minutes already. To be sure that we weren't paranoid, we slowed down and made 2 rounds in a roundabout, but they ended up cutting us up full speed on the small road going to our house, which wasn't a really busy road usually, but we assumed that we were at the wrong place at the wrong time. Fast forward to the lockdown. At first, everything was going well, and we collectively decided to forget about it. We were in May, so 2 months after the lockdown started, and almost the end of it, my sister was downstairs around 3 a.m., just hanging out in the living room. Just to give context, my house has lots of doors and windows in the living room. She noticed one of the doors slightly opening and assumed that someone forgot to close it, and that the wind was blowing. But when she tried to push it to lock it, she felt like someone was putting their weight on it to open. So she screamed as loud as she could and ran upstairs to my parents. They went into the backyard to check if anyone was there, and they didn't see anyone. So we just let it be a one-time thing, but my mom wasn't reassured. So she started to stay in the living room during the night to see if anything would happen. During the next few weeks, nothing happened. And she asked me multiple times to stay with her, just to be her witness in case anything ever happened. Around 1 a.m. we were lying on the couch, but the lights were off because I had a headache and my mom was just scrolling through her phone. We saw a blinding light direct to our living room, which spooked me so much that I was completely paralyzed. My parents went into the backyard and still nothing. After that, we saw multiple lights and heard strange noises, and on the surveillance camera, there were weird people at our gate, staring directly at our house. But as that's not very illegal, we couldn't do anything. This continued for a few months, and it was driving my family insane. In 2021, while we were cleaning the backyard for summer, we saw a big hole in the bushes, large enough to allow someone to go through. We didn't know what to do, but we had confirmation that someone was coming onto our property. Almost nothing happened after that, which made us believe that they knew we were onto them, but we still don't have a clue about who it was and why they were doing that, or even if they wanted to do something bad. So this happened in 2013 and I was 17. My family was looking at this house and the owner showed up and talked with my parents. He seemed like a nice older man and he built the house himself. It's a pretty nice 2-story house overlooking a river. Anyway, I was standing back watching everyone talk and the owner is talking and laughing. But there was a break in the conversation where he turns away from my parents and his expression completely and instantly changes from kind of like happy to the most sinister and hateful scowl I've ever seen. I don't think he noticed me watching, and I probably appeared to be on my phone as my head was down. As soon as he turned back, he instantly went back to smiling. It was so creepy to me and honestly made me feel sick. I told my mom, who also said it was kind of weird, but maybe he's just awkward. So we got the house. We moved in, and the next weekend my family is going to church, but I didn't feel like going, so they all leave me at home. So it's Sunday morning about 11 a.m. when I hear really loud banging outside. It's rhythmic and it's coming from the side of the house. I was on the other side of the house on the second floor. Honestly, my dumb ass thought it was maybe the wind. It was stormy that day and I didn't think much of it. It stopped after about 5 minutes. 10 minutes later, I hear walking around downstairs and chairs moving, kitchen cabinets opening, and the fridge opening. I immediately quietly go lock my door and grab my baseball bat and call 911. While I tell them my address, I text my mom and tell her that someone is in the house and that I've called 911. At that point, the operator said that someone was 10 minutes out. I told her I heard steps walking towards the stairs. Basically, the house is so thin, I could track where he was in the house. At this time, my mom responded that she's on her way, but she's 30 minutes away. But here's a 17-year-old, 5'2", 100-pound girl hunkered in her room, full well knowing that if he came in, he'd overpower me and take the bat. I was terrified. I heard him walk down the hallway towards my door, and I saw the handle turn and stop. It was locked, and I heard him standing there. He didn't move. I could even hear his breathing. It felt like forever, but really it was about 10 seconds. I heard him turn and go back down, and I heard the back door open and shut. About 3 minutes later, the police pulled up. The 911 operator asked me if I could let them in or if they needed to force their way inside. I knew he had left, so I let them in. No one was there. No sign of forced entry, nothing. When my mom got there, she looked at my stepdad and asked if he had changed the locks, and he hadn't. I think the creepiest part, and what really validated my story, was that my mom had just vacuumed the hallway, and there were shoe prints that were larger than anyone in our house, and the police hadn't even been up there. And they stopped just outside my room. We heard that that man died about a year after that. This happened about 2 years ago when I was 19, and I had just moved out of student accommodation into an actual flat with my friend group of 6. The night we moved in, it was just me and one of the girls I'm close with. Let's call her Lucy. I had my boyfriend over at the time, and we'll call him Alec. The other people who were moving in 2 weeks later, as they were all on various holidays or visiting home. So it was just the 3 of us. Lucy was in her room and Alec and I were smoking a joint in bed, watching kung fu movies. And then I started to notice a man, at least 300 pounds and 6 foot tall, pacing outside of our window and looking in occasionally. We were on the basement floor at this time, but the windows are on ground level. Okay, so that's weird, but we'll just make sure the windows are locked. 20 or so minutes pass and everything seems okay, until Lucy runs into my room and says, "Babe, there's a man in the house. We must have left the door unlocked by accident." So now I'm feeling chills. I'm like, what the hell do you mean there's a man in the house? And Alec is frozen solid. Me and Lucy go into the hall, and the huge man who we saw looking in the windows is standing there in our hall. We ask, "What are you doing here?" And he pulls out his phone and shows us a text message from an unsaved number with our address written on it, and something about people being inside. He told us that he was looking for his girlfriend and that she lives here. We're like, no the hell she does not, so please remove yourself from our house. He says okay and that he'll phone his girlfriend. He turns his phone low volume and he's speaking to another man on the phone who is clearly not his girlfriend. With more urgency this time, we tell him to get out of our house and he says okay. He finally leaves and we lock the door. By this point, everyone is shaking. He is still on the phone with this man outside and they are speaking a language we don't understand, but we can hear him getting angry. I tell Alec to please make the scary man go away, and he goes outside and tells him to shift away from our doorway, as he's really scaring us. He says okay and that his taxi is here. He walks up a dead-end street where no taxis were at though. We told our upstairs neighbors who we had met earlier that day about the whole ordeal. We'll call them Charlotte, Matt, and Rob. They informed us that the same man had tried to come in their house, insisting his girlfriend lived there. Charlotte already had a boyfriend who we knew of and had also met that day. And Rob has more balls than all of us and threatened him with a knife the time he came into their house, and he never bothered them again. Over the next couple weeks, the man would occasionally come back and look in our bedroom windows, and Alec was there most times, and I'm really glad for that. I have no doubt he tried the door again, but it was always locked after that.